hydrochloride tranquilizer used in veterinary practice for the sedation of animals and reptiles. Effects in humans in powdered form. Extreme state of euphoria, hallucinations, out-of-body experiences.
What is ketamine? Ketamine is a synthetic dissociative anesthetic that has been used clinically for decades. More recently, has gained attention for its rapid-acting antidepressant effects, especially in patients with treatment-resistant depression like veterans. Ketamine acts primarily as an N-methyl D-aspartate or NMDA receptor antagonist. Structurally, ketamine has three major elements. First, a cyclohexane ring, which forms at the core of the molecule. Second, a phenol ring with a chlorine substituent, and third, a methylamino side chain. Together, these structural features allow ketamine to cross the blood-brain barrier and bind within the NMDA receptor ion channel and interact with multiple neurotransmitter systems in the central nervous system. Ketamine was first synthesized in 1962 by chemist Calvin Stevens while searching for safer anesthetic drugs. At the time, another compound called PCP was known for its strong anesthetic effects but produced severe psychotic effects. Stevens modified PCP structure and created compound CI-581, later named ketamine, with the goal of maintaining anesthetic potency while improving safety. Early human trials on prisoners revealed a unique state called dissociative anesthesia, where patients appeared awake but were disconnected from pain in their surroundings. Importantly, ketamine preserved airway reflexes and blood pressure, although some patients experienced vivid dreams, hallucinations, or out-of-body sensations. In 1970, the FDA approved ketamine hydrochloride under the trade name Ketalar. It quickly became widely used during the Vietnam War, where soldiers referred to it as the buddy drug. Interestingly, by 1973, studies had already begun suggesting that ketamine, particularly when combined with psychotherapy, could improve mental health outcomes, foreshadowing its modern use as a rapid-acting antidepressant.
Alright, so now that we have a good overview in history, let's talk about the clinical and relevant applications of ketamine. So ketamine is used in a few major areas because it's so versatile. So first, it is FDA approved as a general anesthetic, and so meaning that it can be used for both induction and maintenance of anesthesia. And it can also be used as a supplement with other anesthetics. So clinically, one reason that it stands out is that it tends to maintain breathing and cardiovascular stability better than any other agents, which can especially be helpful in more fragile or unstable patients. So another very common use is procedural sedation, especially in the emergency department and the ICU. And so it's often chosen for short, painful procedures like fractures or joint reductions in wound care because it provides both sedation and strong pain control at the same time. So ketamine is also used for pain management in acute pain, but it's usually at a lower dose. And in that setting, the goal is to improve analgesia and often reduce opioid requirements, which can help limit opioid-related side effects as well. And so it can also play a role in certain chronic pain cases as well. And so finally, ketamine has a big role in psychiatry. So while IV ketamine may be used in some settings, esketamine, which is the nasal form, is approved for treatment-resistant depression and for depressive symptoms in major depression with acute suicidal ideation or behavior. So because it can cause side effects like dissociation and temporary increase in blood pressure, it has to be given with monitoring under a REMS program, which stands for Risk Evaluation and Mitigation Strategy. And so overall, ketamine uses span like anesthesia, for emergency care, pain management, and mental health as well, and so making it a very unique medication across multiple specialties.
Oh, great. I have to go clean this up. Oh, shoot.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Alright, let's go over how this amazing molecule works. This GIF shows two glutamate receptors, AMPA on the left and NMDA on the right. When glutamate binds, these channels can open and let ions such as Na+ and Ca2+, otherwise known as sodium and calcium, through, represented by these red dots. AMPA is the fast channel, mostly letting sodium in for faster brain signaling. Meanwhile, the NMDA allows more calcium flow, albeit slower, which can more strongly influence signaling. When ketamine is administered, it blocks the NMDA channel, reducing ion flow and creating that dissociation dreamlike state alongside pain relief and anesthesia since it disrupts signaling. Basically, NMDA is a hallway and ketamine is a door that shows up in the middle of the hallway, making it so fewer ions can get through. Here's my highly advanced medical diagram. For the brain, ketamine can cause dissociation, which is a dreamlike detached state from reality, anxiety, and even headaches. For the eyes, blurred visions are possible. For the heart, ketamine can increase both the heart rate and blood pressure, so it's crucial to monitor the use of it as an anesthetic. For the stomach, nausea and vomiting are also possibilities. This is why ketamine is used with supervision.
Here's the takeaway. Ketamine is popular in anesthesia because it can provide strong pain relief and sedation during surgery procedures, but it still has to be carefully monitored because it can raise both heart rate and blood pressure alongside causing strong dissociation, and even in some cases, euphoria, which has misuse potential. So a controlled dosing and supervision in a proper clinical setting is extremely crucial for the use of ketamine. Dr. Dinh, signing off.
Now I want to go over how ketamine is being used around the world in different clinical and research trials. So specifically, two researchers, Krupitsky and Granecko, studied the use of ketamine as a treatment for substance addiction. Specifically, they looked at heroin and alcohol abuse. So how addiction affects the brain. Addiction has been labeled as a chronic brain disorder that is characterized by the dysregulation of the neural systems involved in motivation and reward. Chronic drug use increases signaling pathway activity in the nucleus accumbens, which is the brain's reward center. This signaling pathway is known as the CAMP-PKA pathway. Overactivity due to repeated drug use promotes compulsive use and strengthens drug-seeking behaviors. Other important brain changes involved in addiction use glutamate signaling at NMDA and AMPA receptors. Changes in these glutamate-driven pathways strengthen drug-related cravings, which contribute to compulsive behaviors associated with substance abuse. Ketamine temporarily blocks NMDA receptors, which increases glutamate-driven plasticity. This may help the brain to break out of rigid patterns involved in addictive behaviors. So specifically looking at this study, they studied 111 chronic alcoholic patients with long-term alcohol withdrawal syndrome. They utilized their method known as the KPT, ketamine psychedelic therapy technique. This treatment involved 3 steps. 1 was a preliminary psychotherapy session. 2 was intramuscular injections of ketamine. And the 3rd step was a group psychotherapy session. Looking at the results after 1 year, they found that the KPT significantly improved long-term sobriety in individuals with alcoholism. 66% remained abstinent in the KPT group compared to the 24% in the control group. Those in the KPT group also had lower relapse rates, 27%, compared to the 69% in the control group. Also, this research, the KPT treatment improved maladaptive personality traits linked to addiction. EEG recordings were also taken of the alcoholic patients during and after the ketamine session. The research results showed high activation of the limbic system and reduced sensory input to the cortex. Again, ketamine blocks NMDA receptors in the cortex, which decreases the brain's processing of external sensory information. As a result, communication between the cortex and limbic structures is strengthened, which may enhance subconscious processing and helps to explain how ketamine can be used as a potential therapeutic treatment. So after they got these initial results with alcoholic patients, Krupitsky and Granecko decided to extend their research into heroin users. So these researchers, they used detoxified heroin users, and they either gave them high or low doses of ketamine after psychotherapy. So following this, they found that the high dose group showed significantly higher abstinence and lower relapse rates for heroin. The high dose group also showed better outcomes in typical heroin treatment programs in Russia, which mainly rely on counseling and limited medication options. Higher doses of ketamine also led to longer lasting reductions in heroin cravings. Additionally, both groups reported experiencing improvements in factors such as depression, mood, anxiety, and daily function. Effects may result from strengthened cortex-limbic communication, counteracting heroin-related brain circuit disruptions.
Ketamine tetrachloride tranquilizer used in veterinary practice for the sedation of animals